Hi, and welcome back to this week's Parshat here on Sefer Maayan Beit Hashoeva. I wanted to share with you one entry that Rosh Schwab has on the beginning of this week's Parshat of Behaalotcha, speaking about the construction of the menorah. The pasuk describes, first actually the beginning of the Parshat describes the command to Aaron to light the menorah, and then after telling him that he has to light the menorah, the Torah reiterates a little bit about the structure of the menorah itself, and it says, V'zeh ma'aseh menorah miksha zahav ad yerecha ad pircha mikshahi. The menorah was made from one solid piece of gold from the bottom to the top, and it was made kamar'eh, asher hera Hashem et Moshe ken asat menorah. Kamar'eh, like the look, the image, asher hera Hashem et Moshe, that Hashem had shown Moshe, ken asat menorah, so he made the menorah. Many questions about this pasuk. First, the question about this whole section. Why is the Torah now reiterating the command to light the menorah and the structure of the menorah over here after the Parshas HaNesim, the Korbanos HaNesim that came before it, after they've already inaugurated the Mishkan, after the menorah was already placed in the Mishkan, as we learned back in Parshas Pekudei, it's already placed there, and now they're inaugurating it. They had the Mei Miluim ceremony, the first of Nisan, Mishkan is put up, 12 Nesim bring their Korbanos all at the beginning of Nisan, and now we've reached the end of that ceremony, and now Torah reiterates again that he has to light the menorah and that this is the structure of the menorah. That's one question that everybody asks over here. Another question here is what it means at the end of the pasuk when it says Kain asat menorah. The menorah should be miksha achat, should be one solid piece of gold, and Kain asat menorah. So did he make the menorah. Who's the he? Who is the subject of this piece of the pasuk? Is it Hashem that made the menorah? Is it Moshe that made the menorah? Rashi quotes a medrash that perhaps they threw the gold into the fire and poof, out came a menorah. Unlike the other vessels of the Mishkan, which Betzalel had to fashion, over here it was made by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kain asat menorah is commenting on the earlier part of the verse. Asher hera Hashem et Moshe. Hashem showed it to Moshe. Kain asat menorah. So did Hashem make the menorah. Other Mefarshim explain that it's Moshe that had a specific and special role over here in making the menorah. Unlike the other vessels that were made by Betzalel, the menorah had a special status. It had to be made by Moshe. So you would read the pasuk, Asher hara Hashem es Moshe, just like the image that Hashem showed Moshe, Kain asat menorah, so too did Moshe, based on that image that he saw, make the menorah. And many other interpretations of this pasuk. So the Sefer Maayan Beit Hashoeva, Rav Schwab asked the following question: Hatmiya mefursemes lama chazar kan al ma'isa menorah lo kvar ba atzivu le'el parshas Truma v'kvar hodienu akasuv asiyah so asiyasa b'parshas Vayakel. We already know of the command to build the menorah that already came in Truma. We already know about the actual fulfillment of the command to build the menorah that happened in Parshas Vayakel. Why does the Torah have to tell us again here in Parshas Behaalotcha about the construction of the Mishkan? Hine Amru Chazal. He quotes a Gemara in Maseches Menachos. Gemara tells us, Niskasha Moshe b'maisa menorah ad shehera lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'etzba. But we learned that Moshe had trouble, unlike the other pieces of the Mishkan, he had trouble visualizing what the menorah would actually look like. It's a strange Gemara. Rosh Schwab doesn't comment directly on this question, but a lot of people wonder what was so difficult about the menorah that made it more difficult for Moshe Rabbeinu to imagine than any other vessel. There's a lot of discussion about that. But right now, take the Gemara at face value. Niskasha Moshe, he had a trouble visualizing what it would be. And so Hashem had to show him ba'etzba, to show him a physical image, a fiery image of the menorah in order for Moshe to actually see it. There's a lot to learn from this Gemara, but the nature of learning experiences, the nature of hands-on experiential learning versus textbook learning, a lot you can convey in words, but there's something very powerful you can convey in reality by showing a person, like demonstrating to a person, by them seeing an image. There are visual learners, there are textual learners. Moshe Rabbeinu was able to have a little bit of both in this case. He was able to have the instructions of the construction of the menorah by Hashem and the visual that Hashem gave him, Mara Ba'etzba, showing him physically what it would look like. This Gemara Menachos is brought by Rashi in Parshas Truma when the pasuk says, V'ra'ah u're'eh ve'aseh b'tav nisam asher ata mar'eh bahar. And the command comes to say, Re'eh ve'aseh, see it and do it, B'tavnisam, according to the structure that you saw Bahar, that you saw at the mountain. So this pasuk Rashi comments on the pasuk, bringing the Gemara Menachos, infusing the two together. When the pasuk says you should make the menorah exactly like the image you saw on the mountain, Rashi says, it must be that on the mountain Niskasha Moshe, like the Gemara Menachos says, he had trouble visualizing it. Hashem already at Har Sinai showed him an image of what the menorah would look like. And now, later in Parshat Truma, Hashem says, make the menorah just like the image that I showed you. Parshat Behaalotcha, it's repeated again. Moshe did make this menorah, Kenasa Esa menorah, Kamareh Shehara Hashem es Moshe, like the image he had shown Moshe, meaning at Har Sinai. Put all these, the two sets of psukim and the Gemara Menachos and the Rashi all together, that's the story that we get. V'nir shemenorah shel eish shira Moshe yakeina mara shira Zechariah hanavi. What the Maayan Beit Hashoeva of Schwab extrapolates a little bit from this is saying that just like Moshe, now we learn from this Gemara and these two sets of psukim in Behaalotcha and Truma that Moshe saw some kind of image that Hashem pointed to about what the menorah would look like. We can extrapolate and say it's similar to the image that Zechariah Hanavi sees when Hashem shows him the menorah in his prophetic vision, which we read as the Haftorah for this Parshat Behaalotcha, the Haftorah for Chanukah as well, where the pasuk says, "V'ra'isi, v'nei menorah zahav kula, v'gula rosha, v'shiva nerosa aleh, shiva v'shiva mutzakos leneros asher al rosha." Describes the image that Zechariah saw of the seven-branched candelabrum. Ayin sham b'mefarshim, shayu haneros dolkos. You see a fascinating thing. If you look at the mefarshim in Zechariah on this pasuk, they explain that Zechariah not only saw the image of the golden menorah, but he saw an image of the golden menorah lit, with the candles lit, the fires lit on it. If that's true of the image Zechariah saw of the menorah, and according to Rav Shmuel, we can connect these two images, that the way Moshe saw it on Har Sinai and the way Zechariah saw it are the same, we can extrapolate backwards and say what Moshe saw on Har Sinai was not just an image of what the menorah would look like built, but what it would look like lit. V'chein ra'a Moshe bahar hamenorah shel mishkan im neros dolkos. V'al zeh ba hatzivui u're'ei v'aseh. Now we can understand the command, Parshat Truma, in an entirely different light. When Hashem gives the command to Moshe in Parshat Truma, and he says, Re'ei v'aseh, see it, and make it, the command to Moshe was not just to construct the menorah out of gold, but to construct the menorah of gold and have it lit. That only once it's lit would the construction of the menorah be complete. That the lighting of the menorah for the first time was part and parcel of the construction of the menorah itself. Nimsa shehadlakas hamenorah betchila lo hayta rak geder avodas hamikdash ela inyan makeh bepatish. The lighting of the menorah for the first time in the Mishkan was not just part of the avodah, the service in the Mishkan, it was actually part of the construction project. The tail end of the construction project of the Mishkan was not just constructing the Mishkan and all of its vessels, but the last stage of it was also using the constructed menorah to actually light. It was the final blow, the makeh b'patish, the last step of construction was the lighting. Shebazeh nigmar asiyasa kitavnisa shira'a Moshe bahar. Because after all, the command was, make it. That's the command of construction. And according to the vision that he had, which is similar to Zechariah's, the vision that he had, which was commanded to him to construct it in that way, was a vision of it already lit. So it must be that the lighting of the menorah is part of the construction. ובעוד שלא הדליק משה בימי המילואים את נרות עד אחר שהדליק אהרון ביום השמיני, לא נגמרה מעשה המנורה. So Moshe and Aaron both lit the menorah as part of the ceremony of the inauguration of the Mishkan. The construction of the menorah, not the usage, the construction of the menorah was not considered complete. Now we can understand this whole set of psukim much better. The pasuk says in the beginning of Behaalotcha that Aaron did this facing the menorah. He lit the candles. And that's why the very next pasuk goes back to describe the construction. V'zeh ma'isa menorah, and this lighting that Aaron just did in Parshat Behaalotcha after the whole inauguration ceremony, after all the korbanos and nisiyim, were introduced to the lighting of the menorah. And the reason the Torah now reiterates the construction piece, Zeh ma'isa menorah miksha achat, that it's one piece, kein asas menorah, Even though we knew that already from earlier, we knew it from Truma, we knew it from Vayakel, it's repeating it now because it's saying, Zeh Maisa Menorah, this which Aaron just lit, the lighting is the completion of Maisa Menorah, of the construction of the menorah. Shebazeh Nigmar Asiyasa, because through the lighting, the construction of the menorah was completed. Kamareh Shehara Hashem es Moshe, just like the image that Hashem had shown Moshe at Har Sinai. Menorah, the lekes, Kein Asas menorah, a lit menorah. Kein Asas, says our pasuk, so did Moshe do, so did Moshe complete the construction of the Mishkan by Aaron's lighting of it at this stage of the inauguration of the Mishkan. If we understand this set of psukim in this way, we understand why the construction of the menorah is repeated over here. It's repeated because it's reinforcing to us that the lighting that happened here for the first time is actually part of the construction that began long ago. This approach to the psukim also helps us to understand the answer to another question. Bazeh misparish mashapiyas HaKadosh Baruch Hu es Aaron. We understand why the lighting of the menorah at this stage was an appeasement to Aaron. Rashi says in the Chumash here, why is it that these two parshios are connected? What's the smichas parshios between the korbanos and and the lighting of the menorah? And he says that Aaron was chalsha daito. He was very despondent. He was very upset because he sees all the Nesiim of each tribe bringing korbanos, inaugurating the Mishkan. He realizes he and his tribe of Levi, although they're working in the Mishkan, will never have a part in bringing korbanos, bringing gifts for the inauguration ceremony. They weren't part of that. They were the workers, not the bringers. So he was very despondent. He wanted to take part in this beautiful ceremony. So Rashi says here that the smichas parshas is meant to teach us that Hashem consoled him by saying, Chayecha, shelcha gadol mishalem. Never think that way. I swear to you, your portion is greater than theirs. Shata madlik umetiv asaner. It's because you get the chance to light the menorah. That's why this passage is included over here at this point after the korbanos and Nesiim. So everybody wonders, why is it a consolation to Aaron to light the menorah? Why is that gadol mishalem? Why is that a greater task than the Nesiim bringing their korbanos, and how was that a comfort to Aaron? So now we can understand it perhaps a little bit better. What advantage did Aaron have through the lighting of the menorah that the Nesiim didn't have in bringing their korbanos? Pirush, Nesiim heviu korbanos umatanos achar shekvar nishlama asiyas hamishkan, avahadlakas hamenorah chelek mimaisa hamenorah kanal. We understand that Shalcha Gadol Mishalem means that Aaron, you should be consoled because you have a greater role than them. You know why? They got to bring all of these korbanos for the inauguration of the Mishkan once it was already completed. But by you lighting the menorah, you have a greater piece because your lighting is not part of the avoda. You're thinking they have an avoda, korbanos. I have an avoda, lighting. No. He says your lighting is part of the construction. It's part of the completion of the Mishkan, which is what enabled their korbanos to be brought to begin with. And therefore, Shalcha Gadol Mishalem, you have a part in completing the construction of the Mishkan, not just the avoda, the service within the Mishkan. And because of that, Shalcha Gadol Mishalem. Have a great Shabbos.